1 minute, wait. Everyone follow one format, no? Shivam Swankar, Comod, Comod Swankar.
We have started. It's not live yet. It's live.
Okay.
Over to the moderators, please.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's Socratic Dialogue. And the Socratic Dialogue for this week will be on the aesthetics of coding. So before we get started with the dialogue, I would request all of you to introduce yourselves.
Hello everyone, my name is Sandeep Singh and today I am the part of Elegant Logic.
Hello everyone, I'm Shivam Dubey from this team Elegant Logic.
Hello everyone, I'm Janvi Shukla. I'll be the coach for Team Elegant Logic.
Hello everyone, I'm Gaita Dev and I'm a part of Team Elegant Logic.
Hi, I'm Nandita and I'm part of the team Code Muse.
Hello everyone, I'm Shubham Dhokre and today I will be representing Team Code News.
Hi everyone, I'm Prerna Ladkani and I'll be the coach for Team Code Muse.
Hello guys, good evening. I'm Harshita and I'm from Team Code Muse.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sanjeevni and I'll be the moderator for today.
Hello everyone, I'm Shivam Swarnakar and I will be the co-moderator for today's SD. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Tarun and I'll be Got Your Point guide today. We'll get to hear that soon. Yeah.
Okay.
Which team wants to go into the answer box first?
Team Code News.
Yeah. Just 60 seconds start now.
Okay, so I would like to start by explaining why we have chosen the name Code News. So we have chosen the name Code Muse because muse refers to something that an artist can look up to as inspiration to work on their art. So even as developers, we have the muse of solving problems, and that's our inspiration to basically write clean, maintainable, and structured code. And to summarize our pitch, we are trying to explore the intersection between aesthetics, literature, and coding by emphasizing on how literary skills like structure, clarity, empathy can help in writing us better code. So, what is aesthetic coding? So every author has their unique way of writing their stories, their poems. Some like to use heavy monologues in writing their dialogues. Some like to structure their poems in beautiful stanzas, 4 line, 8 line.
40 seconds left.
Okay, so just like that, every developer also has their unique way of writing code. Some like to use the OOPS concept, some like to use the functional programming concept. So this is where we can see the true beauty of aesthetic coding. Next slide, please. Yeah, where literature meets coding. When writing a story, we need to have a clear idea.
30 seconds left.
When writing a story, we need to have a better idea about what the story is exactly going to be. If we don't have that idea, our story might turn into something inconsistent and a lot of plot holes. So similarly in coding, we need to have the clarity about what our code is actually going to be. If we lack this clarity, then our code will be really ugly and unreadable. So yeah, next slide. Over to you, Ashita.
Okay, good code tells a story like a good book. It has style, structure, and a rhythm. In a well-written app, everything has its place. The folders are like chapters. Each component is a character. Your main file, that's the narrator. Even the naming matters, get user data, makes sense. But FX12-run, that's noise. Code has tone, it has emotion. Comments line like a voiceover. Next slide, please. Yeah, the literally traits in the software development. Writer uses rhythm, metaphors, and structure. So do get developers. Take a singleton pattern, one object that represents something unique. That's like a symbol in literature. One, just look at awakes or a sync awaits. It slow down things, adds assessments, wait for the right moments, just like pacing in a story. And naming, it's like choosing the right words in a poem. Clean code feels smooth, bad code feels clunky. It's not about beauty for the beauty's sake. It's about beauty or about the clarity. Over to you, Nandita.
Okay, so moving to the next slide.
Your time's already up. Quickly summarize. Yeah.
Okay. Prerna, change the slide, please. Sorry, the previous one. Yes, so we often think that code is pure logic, right? But the best coders, they think like storytellers, and it sharpens our sense of flow and timing, making code feel natural and not mechanical. And it teaches intuition, that invisible sense when something in the design just clicks or doesn't. So great code, like great stories, connects not just machine to machine, but human to human. Moving to the last slide. Literature doesn't just inspire, it engineers sharper thinking. It teaches rhythm, precision, and metaphors stretch our minds, helping us design smarter systems, not just write instructions. So in the end, reading isn't a soft skill, it's a technical superpower. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Team Code News. So we'll open the round for questions now. Team Elegant Logic, you can pose your question.
Okay, so in the last slide, you mentioned that literature helps in building economy, like helps in clarity as well as economy. What does that means?
We would appreciate if the questions are to the point. What does economy mean in your last slide? What is the connection between literature and economy?
Well, I'd like to answer this. Can I? Yeah, so literature, if a coder follows the literature, so he will write the code in a more clear and in a more understandable way. So the teammates who are new to this, who will read this for the first time, they will not be frustrated for what they will be able to understand that what.
Are you saying economy is readability?
So that will save time and the project will flow more smoother.
Got you. Back to question box. Back to question box.
So, how can literature help us think more creatively when we face coding challenges?
1 minute. Do you have a counter question to what she said? We'll first take counter questions before changing the thread.
Okay, so how does readability leads to aesthetic?
No. Your point was, what is the connection between literature, this aesthetic and economy? Her point was, new people will not get frustrated, understand quickly. It saves time and money. Do you have a counter question around her answer? Socratic dialogue is not about, okay, I have this question, I have this question, I have this question. It's about diving deep into what is answered, right? So you have a counter to that. Her argument is, if the code is more readable, it saves time and money.
How can it save more money? I understand that it can save more time.
Got it. Got you. Back to answer box.
So I guess time is the most precious thing. So if we are able to understand,
please don't beat around the bush. How is it saving money?
If we are able to do a lot of things in a small amount of time, then I think we can grow our company and move towards.
You still didn't answer how it is saving time.
What?
You still didn't answer how it is saving money.
Because in a small amount of time, we can work with different things and
saving money, not answer. And team Code News, I hope there's a team here. There's a team or there's one person here. Have the other two resigned?
No, okay, I would like to answer that. As she said that less time fixing bad code is equals to low cost for me. Messing, confusing code leads to more bugs, longer testing, and expensive fixes later.
Got you. Back to question box. Confusing code, more bugs. That's how it saves money. Is that point? Back to question box. How are more bugs equivalent to more money? More money lost here.
I would like to answer that. Yeah, so basically, if our code has a lot of bugs now, we will have to invest in developers who are really good at solving them. But if we write code in a way that...
Can we keep it simple? Socratic dialogue is not about speeches. I would like to answer that. Thank you for it. Utna sanskar, utna culture ki zarurat nahi hai. Seedha, be disciples of Socrates. Socrates is no nonsense kind of a guy. Straight to the point.
Yeah. So
more bugs, more developers, more time. More time, more salary, period.
Yep.
Back to question box. Out of questions, question box? Yeah.
Okay, moving to the
You go ahead, Sandeep.
yeah, moving to like, do we have to stay on this thread only or?
Yes. So is your economy linked only to developers being able to understand and developers being able to fix the code quickly, or do you see any other aspect of economy here, of code being clean? Is it just about the people involved? If the code is clean, would it work on more devices? Would it work on more browsers? Or rather, if you write dirty code, would it work on every browser, or would it work only on a few browsers?
If we write really good code, then I believe it will run on multiple kinds of systems. That will help us scale
Would it
as well.
work on
And
multiple operating systems?
yeah, it would, because if our code is really good, if we have we have considered all the possibilities that what kind of bugs can arrive in different systems, different browsers. Then
So
I believe
got it. So if your code works in multiple systems, what is the economic link to it?
we can scale more.
What if you
If
can
we,
scale more? What's the economic link to it?
I believe we can, if we scale more, then we'll definitely make a lot of money as well.
Okay, so one is good code. You're saying good code scales more because it works across platforms. Next, what is the impact on your server, on impact of good code and bad code on your server? You write a code with O of log n and you write a code with O of n square. What's the difference? What's the impact on the server?
The server will have to process more data to for the O of n square.
It's not more data, it does more calculations.
Yeah, it
This is
does
why
more
this is why
calculation.
DSA is important.
Yes.
But is the topic about the aesthetics of coding or
Aesthetics
the
only, there's a
performance of
connection.
coding?
Exactly. So in your aesthetic consideration, do you consider a code to be aesthetic if it is doing O of log n?
We will try our best to make it log n.
No,
Big O of log n.
are you concerned about whether it's O of log n or not?
Yeah, we will try.
A lot of developers just don't care.
Performance means we will try to keep it to log n.
A lot of developers just don't care about O of n. In fact, a lot of developers don't even know what is O of n. They just write code. So again, the aesthetic sense, right? So would O of n square be aesthetic to you? You're writing a double for loop on the input. It's O of n square. So if this code is aesthetic this way, what is the impact on the server? Less calculations. What's the economy angle if it's less calculations?
It is less computationally expensive.
No, you pay based on amount of server, resources you use, right? And what if in your code, you make a lot of database calls? You make unnecessary database calls.
It will bring in a lot of latency in the process.
Other than that, economy.
Yeah, the database operations may take charges for the specific or any request that you make to the database
All
service.
database operations are, built for.
Yeah.
So if you're writing good code, would you also be looking at good architecture where your database operations are minimized? So any other economic impact of your code? Database operations, then your server utilization. What if you make too many network calls in your code? You get information like through 5 network calls, not 2 network calls. What's the impact again from an economy perspective? Your mobile is talking to the server, 5 times, while it could have spoken only twice and got the information. What's the impact from an economy perspective?
I think every network call costs time, that is latency, and cost that is money and bandwidth and server
Every time
processing.
it
Many
calls your
calls slow down
server,
apps.
every time it's calling your server is active. No,
But too many calls slow down apps, especially mobile apps where users are
forget about
impatient.
the slowdown. Forget about the slowdown. If 1 million users are using it with two network calls, you would have, the server would have been active 2 lakh times. 5 calls, the server would have been active 5 lakh times. 5 lakh times into each time, let's say 1,000 calculations, 5 lakh into 1,000, those many calculations. That's the server usage, right? So you do too many calls, there again you're utilizing the server more. And the more you utilize the server, the more bill you pay. Do you guys think server bills are negligible? Deep Thought with 100 users pays about 15,000 rupees a month. Server, database, and all of it. And our bills are negligible. So the more you scale up, these services are not cheap. So if you're a bad engineer, you'll blow up the server costs. This is why companies, the moment they achieve scale, they start looking at DSA and stuff, right? Whether you're using algorithms, you're optimizing, and that's where beauty comes in. So then in coding, does beauty come from algorithms? Then the question is, are algorithms beautiful?
I feel the more optimized our code is, the more beautiful it will be.
But do you see an inherent, okay, do you write algorithms only because you want to save time, or do you see beauty in algorithms?
I mean, there is certainly beauty in algorithms, the way we write
Beauty in
algorithms.
the sense, the creativity that comes in to solve a particular problem.
Is it just
The beauty
creativity,
of
or
solving.
you see some sort of a beauty, right? Like, okay, there are randomized algorithms. What's beautiful about randomized algorithms? 97% of the times, I will finish the job very fast. 3% of the time, let's say there's an algorithm which with a 97% probability goes O of log n. And with a 3% probability goes O of n square. Would you accept this algorithm? 97% of the time, it does it super fast. 3% slow. Would you take this? If a plain O of log n algorithm doesn't exist, you take this, right? So is this idea of a randomized algorithm beautiful? Why? Because it's like in more, you don't use you bring, I mean, when you talk of beauty, right? So I was once writing an algorithm for a problem. So I said, if my problem is not predictable, why should my algorithm be predictable? My algorithm will also be unpredictable. I will toss a coin and decide what to do. That's your randomized algorithm, right? So is this thought beautiful? That if my problem is random, my algorithm will also be random. I will toss a coin and decide what to do. So, I mean, when we are investigating the link of code and beauty, how do we understand algorithms? Do we see beauty in algorithms? The moment we see beauty in algorithms, I think we can, see so many algorithms out there and start implementing them, especially ideas like randomized algorithms. Or say graph algorithms. Why are graph algorithms beautiful? Why do we, okay, why are graphs beautiful?
They're systemized, they're effective in delivering the information they're supposed to deliver.
No, in computer science, the graph is not your bar graph wala graph. Here, graph is a network. There are dots. Graph is like your rangoli. There are dots and the dots are connected by lines. And in computer science, trees grow downwards. Yeah. They don't grow upwards.
I think graph has many features more than trees, and also it has very much practical uses, especially in Google Maps nowadays. So I think the beauty comes also with the practicality of the thing, how much it can be implemented.
Oh, okay. Why is graph as a structure important? It captures relationship between objects, right? Let's say you look at your LinkedIn. Is Sandeep a friend of Shivam? I can capture that information through a graph, right? I connect the dot of Sandeep with the dot of Shivam. And how are they connected? Are they teammates? Are they brothers? I can, have a label on the edge. I can have colored edges, right? All edges can be of different colors. The color can represent the relationship.
It kind of represents system thinking, right?
Let's not just
how
think
everything
words.
is connected.
Systems think, no. It's not about how everything is connected. It is about capturing the relationships between different entities. So if I want to store such information, right, like how different objects are connected with each other, I could use a graph. But what is the problem with a graph? That the information is so bloody scattered. So there again, you bring in graph algorithms, breadth first search, depth first search. Across a graph, you have to go find something. I just have one more question here. What can we do so that more students see beauty in graphs and graph algorithms, or rather algorithms at large?
I think students are never really taught how to relate coding logic with real life problems, and that's where the gap comes in. Maybe they could be teaching them viewing things like a story or real problems and then start building the logic from there by relating with the problems and then creating an algorithm as a story and slowly finding out that problem. Maybe that would improve people's views towards seeing the creativity in algorithms.
Adding to Prerna, what I would like to say is we can connect algorithms to people's daily lives. Suppose a decision tree algorithm in machine learning, like many people don't know about it. So decision tree is, at every node you ask a question, and if it is yes, it goes on to the next node. So if we can connect the algorithms to the person's daily life or activities of that particular individual, we can connect much more.
A lot of algorithms are no way connected to our real life, right? They sit inside servers for performing some small activities which are no way connected to real life. The output is connected, but the algorithm itself is not connected. See, Shivam, the trouble with this very limited and narrow thinking that everything that I study has to be connected to real life is we tend to master the things which are relatable, and we tend to ignore things like graphs which are not relatable. And that's probably why I think some of these advanced computer science concepts have remained inaccessible to the masses, because the masses want them to be relatable. Not everything can be relatable.
Right.
As in relatable in your everyday life. No, I mean, things could be made relatable. You can bring Feynman technique, but they may not have applications in your immediate life.
Then what would be the best way to develop this interest in algorithms, which are too abstract?
That's exactly my question.
I think one way could be help them visualize what the algorithm is doing. Visual learners learn better. If you see how it's connecting dots and how it's doing. So it's a better way of learning that what's happening behind the scenes when you're writing the code. That could be a way of helping people.
Or maybe we can show the impact that particular algorithm is having on the system or on the server or during the entire process.
That is more or less taught in colleges.
Is it?
More or less, I said.
No, is the
I
impact?
think if we can give the big picture,
Sometimes, not every time.
that is.
Even the big picture could matter.
Okay. We could probably now go to the team Elegant Logic.
Please make sure to adhere to that.
Yeah, and please don't read out from your slides. If you read out from the slides or if your presentation is boring, the questions might go into a completely different tangent. So make sure that you emphasize on what is the core of your pitch. You read out from your slides, people may pick up questions from any one word of your slide and the entire discussion might just revolve around that.
Hello everyone. So we have named our team Elegant Logic because it's a name that reflects the balance between creativity and structure, drawing from the idea that both writing and coding require elegance and logic. To summarize our pitch draws a parallel between writing and coding, highlighting how both require clarity, structure, and creativity.
You could please proceed to keep up with the time here.
What is coding? Coding isn't just about giving instructions to a machine. It's about communicating with people who use our work. A good code feels like a well-told story with structure, flow, and a clear purpose. Coding and literature are more alike than we think. A writer's style shows in words, a coder's style shows in code. So a great code, like great stories, is understood, felt, and remembered. Over to Sandeep.
Yes, so breaking down the key attributes.
I think there are two dialog boxes. Could you please move them? Whoever is sharing the screen. Yeah. Back to you, Sandeep.
Yes, breaking down the key attributes which we have in, our good code versus literature would be clarity of expression, having that empathy towards the reader, and a good structure which translate to a good logic in code. The influence which we try to have, or which, a literature guy would have on coders, would be basically empathy, as well as having that culture of clarity and storytelling. Over to Shubham.
Literature isn't about just stories, it shapes the mindset behind great software. It teaches empathy, clarity, reflection, open mindedness, the same qualities that help us solve problems. Over next slide. Okay, so to conclusion, literature sharpens a coder's mind. Metaphors simplify complex ideas. Stories teach user guidance, and reading builds empathy, clarity, and thoughtful design. Everything that is needed for better code.
Could you please tell us what is the core of your entire pitch? Otherwise, the questions could just go on a tangent. What's the core of your pitch?
So
yes.
So our core of our pitch is that literature and coding has much in common than we think.
That's it. So I can ask any questions about connections between both of them. Is it all, or what's the crux of your pitch so that our questions are focused on them?
So we have clarity of thought, or clarity, towards having that code which shows clarity to others, just like in literature. And we are focusing on three things, which is empathy, as well as we can say
Structure.
readability, and refactoring. These four things are the core.
But you said the crux of your pitch was elegance, right? Is it elegance or is it clarity? What is your pitch about?
It is clarity.
Then why elegant logic?
Because elegance is referring to literature and logic was referring to code. So to show that parallelism, we named our team the Elegant Logic.
Okay. So, but your pitch is all about clarity and clarity coming through empathy, refactoring, and structure, is it? Okay. Over to Team Code News for your questions.
How is empathy related to code, or how are you going to bring empathy?
Got you. Over to Team Elegant Logic.
So as we all like, okay, empathy comes in towards the user, towards the teammate who is reading your code.
Got you. Over to Team Code News.
How?
Basically, if you are reading a code, you should be able to understand it, as well as the person who's working with you should be able to understand it as
Got
well.
you. Code News.
How are you going to do this?
Got you. Yeah.
So we are going to do this through having a clear structure, a flow which is, being able to have a flow which is readable, as well as having some key standard towards the team which can make them all come into the same place.
Standards, comments, naming conventions, intuitive names. Yeah, Code News.
What is the structure that you're following for it? You mentioned having structure.
Got you. Elegant Logic.
The structure that we are trying to follow would be having a flow in the or the logic should be very smooth. Each function or each functionality should lead to another functionality in a very smooth way so people can understand it. This would be the structure.
Got you. Code News.
Satisfied.
How does literature?
I understand what you're trying to do in terms of one thing flowing to the other, but how exactly do you do that in a large code base?
In a large code base, it would be more modular, having modularity, having different files and folders for different purposes.
Modularity is fantastic, but it's still a big maze, right? How do I navigate through that maze?
We can have a guide, just like there is an index for every, book or literature. We can have an index for the code.
How do you make it precognitive? I have different modules. How do I make it precognitive to understand the link between the modules?
Precognitive as in?
I know what it is even before I go and study it in depth. Names of the modules?
Yes.
Using keywords which actually define the entire
Using
concept.
intuitive names for modules. So people can understand the relationship between them. Okay, back to Team Code News.
Okay, in what way can the pacing of program impact the user experience? Similar to the literature, like engagement of reader in a story.
Can you repeat?
It's like if the story is very slow, the reader is bored. Story is very fast, the reader doesn't understand. Do you have a parallel of this in programming as well?
We can have comments which shows like what the whole thing is about. And
With the comments as well, do you have a sense of pacing in the way you write comments? I thought that was a great question, Harshita. So I'm thinking to have a hierarchy in the comments so that when I'm skimming, I can only read the top comments. And when I'm seeing the details also, I think it's about how not to write. I mean, knowing where to write a comment, right? Something which is very self-explanatory. Maybe I could skip it or and only places where it is needed, I write the comment, right? So the judgment of how much explanation is needed in the comment, I think, could be a parallel in pacing. To ensure that, with a flow, I'm able to read the comments and understand what's going on in the code. It's something like this, right, Harshita? There is this philosopher called Wittgenstein. His writing is considered to be one of the shabbiest writing in human history. That people find it very difficult to understand Wittgenstein. So it's written in a way that it takes a lot of effort to understand what is written. He had great thoughts, he's expressed great thoughts, but the way of writing is such that it takes a lot of effort to understand. So in that sense, I think you may have great code, you may have very logically structured it, but if your comments are not written in a way that the other person can quickly grasp it, it may be very difficult for somebody else to take over that code, right? So you probably want a person who can also write the comments in a manner that with a glance, people are able to get a sense of what's going on.
I think we can also take the parallelism from literature, like we have syntax, we have different syntaxes, right? We have one phrase and we have other paragraph. So we can divide the code and write the comment in that way. Like we have sonnets.
Absolutely. So that's why I think Janvi different. Some of the best companies in the world, like Netflix, right, have guidelines in terms of what should be the size of each one, right? So some of the companies have a thinking a backend file cannot be more than 200 lines of code. So the moment it exceeds 200, they take it to a new file and write it there and organize it. So in that sense, I think, yeah, so a parallel to this format would probably be the folder structure. How you'd go about the folder structure. And again, I see that many of the interns, right, they write the entire code inside one file. That's one problem. And another mistake they do is, I think they write very, very long files, right? 800 lines, 1000 lines, and so on. That makes it very difficult to troubleshoot the code. So yeah, I think that's a great question. I think both Harshita's question in terms of pacing and Janvi's point in terms of, the standard structures that you have in literature. I think your standard structures in code also. So I think it'll be a great idea if this is taught in colleges, right? The standard styles that different companies follow and why they follow that. Because I think, Janvi, one more problem that companies face with code is when we have defined a particular style and all the engineers have written in a particular style, right? You'd want the new engineers to adopt that style, because the moment the style changes, the readability of the entire code, right? Not just those lines, the overall readability takes a hit. You want that consistency and symmetry across the code so that people are able to seamlessly navigate through that code, right? So I think one big problem which a lot of startups face is in terms of every engineer has a different style. How do you bring all those styles together? Much like if you have an anthology, how do you bring different writers together and still ensure that the anthology is having some sort of harmony? So that could be another parallel. So yeah, very interesting parallels coming up between literature and coding.
Okay, any other follow-up questions on that?
I think we'll stop it here, Sanjeevni. Can we will probably close the link and take reflections along with everyone. And all the participants, it'll be nice if you can get some reflections ready. I definitely have some interesting reflections, but would love to hear yours as well. Can we close the breakout rooms? Can the host close the breakout rooms, please?
Okay, thank you everyone for joining in.
No, not thank you. The live is still on. The reflections are coming. Yeah.
So we'll have all the reflections together today.
Yes. Okay, the host is not responding, so I'll close the rooms. Okay, the host is closed already. Probably the Meta SD is still going on. People will use their last second to discuss. Hope you all had a great Meta SD. I was just saying that people are going to use until their last second, until the room closes, to actually have a discussion. So I'm sure you all had fantastic discussions. We'd love to hear your reflections based on the SD. Who's going in first? We'd love to hear your reflections. Who's going in first?
Okay, I will go first. Okay, so what I learned from this is that the key is to make code clear, efficient, and easy to maintain. Just like a good story is engaging and easy to follow, like Tarun said, if it's too fast and like that, as a developer, I need to think about how others will read and use my code.
Okay. So how you'll paste the comments in your code is what you took away. Okay. Thank you, Shubham. Who's going next? Open to anybody here who has a reflection to share. Yeah.
So I go
I
next.
think I'll go.
Okay,
Okay, Tejas, you can.
Okay. So from the current SD session, I learn about the code isn't just a beautiful by seeing it, but the real beauty inside the complexity of that code, how it's written, how it's going to be performed. Means whenever we try to say a code, it's beautiful. Means anyone can can be able to write a code as beautiful as possible. But if they don't write it as a way, their complexity isn't is a low. Means like a big option. It's a right, and the idealism is big open that doesn't exist right now. But the big option is the really nice thing to achieve in the any code base. Means any entire code written. So I think approach to writing a good code is a really nice thing, and a maintainable code or all the approaches from the system design is absolutely over there. But the main thing is that for me right now, to make it more efficient, make it more time to reduce their time complexity, to enhance my code stability and improve the app performance by the end of the time. That's the reflection I took from that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tejas. So you're saying that O of n is beautiful, O of log n is very beautiful. So that's the beauty you're going to look for in your code, right? To look at, okay, O of n and O of log n. And O of n log n is okay. Right? So
Yeah.
who's going next?
Yeah, I was going next. So my biggest key takeaway was I was not sure what exactly empathy was doing in coding. So when you mentioned that somebody else is going to read that code, and if I write it in a single page, 800 codes, how is that person going to work on that? So just keeping in mind that somebody else is also going to work on that, have an empathic side to it, and structuring it and mention and like giving it comments. It would be grateful, like it would be very grateful for others who will be working on that, because everyone has a different style. But it would be easier for them to understand if it is in different columns.
Yeah. Thank you, Janvi. That's a great reflection. Just to add on to that, see the talent of any developer, right, or a programmer, either a developer or a programmer, right, whoever it is, the talent lies in your ability to work with somebody else's code, not just your own code. I mean, anybody can write their own code from the scratch, but to take an open source code or somebody else's code and work on top of that, I think is what, takes real talent. And if you want to understand the importance of empathy, probably India produces a lot of bad code. Happy to share some of it with you, and you can try to understand it, and then you'll understand what is the value of empathy. Because India writes a lot of bad code, right? So if you're so KT becomes a very long process. The knowledge transfer becomes a very long process when it's bad code. But when you write it in a beautiful way, it's something like this. When you're writing the code itself, I mean, great developers, right? When they write that code, they just be staring at their code for hours. Wow, it's so beautiful. Wow, it's so nice. So if your code is not that way, no, then you're not writing beautiful code. You make something, you feel like staring at it for hours. So that, so I think empathy will be a byproduct of this, right? It's like you're imagining that somebody else is reading and somebody else is like, wow, somebody else is, just stunned by the elegance of your code. So that's where I think the empathy sort of kicks in when you're writing that code. That you know somebody else is going to read and you want to make that person's day with the way you write it.
I'd like to go in next. So my takeaway was that when you're trying to understand any concept, any topic, any field, it's important to first understand what level of expertise are you trying to attain in it. If you're explaining it to someone who does not know anything about it, then you'd want to connect it to their real life. You'd want to find elements of relatability, use Feynman technique. But as you try to move towards understanding it better, towards expertise, then you have to understand that after a certain point, you can't continue to look for real life examples. You have to find comfort in the discomfort of abstract things, and sort of try to understand it as it is instead of trying to force it into a mold of relatable example or a mold of something that is rooted in reality, because that will actually help you understand it better.
Absolutely, Paridhi. I think the area where a lot of people struggle in computer science is this. Most of the people have difficulties with abstraction and handling abstraction, right? Moving from concrete to abstract and abstract to concrete. And here George Polya said something really beautiful, right? And possibly Prerna and the other person who asked for real world examples will be happy with this because there's a analogy provided here. George Polya said, a mathematician who can only generalize, as in somebody who can go from concrete to abstract, is like a monkey who can only climb a tree. And a mathematician who can only specialize is like a monkey which can only come down a tree. In the real world, the monkey which can only go up a tree is not viable because the monkey has to come down for food. And the monkey which can only come down is not viable because if there's a tiger or something, the monkey has to climb up a tree. So in the real world, you need the ability to go from concrete to abstract, which is generalizing, and from abstract to concrete, which is specializing. So the ability to both find an example for an abstract idea and also take examples and find a pattern and abstract out. Seeing a pattern is like abstracting out, right? So being able to abstract out, these are two very important ideas in the real world. And then look, for the people who are not developers, right? For the people who are not developers, somebody who is a psychologist. As a psychologist too, that's what you're doing, right? Today, a person A may be having a problem, a person B is having a problem, but you're abstracting out and seeing a common phenomenon, right? In fact, that's what education is. Education is nothing but abstraction out of empirical detail. I hope you got my phrase. What did I say?
Abstraction out of empirical detail.
What does that mean? This is super abstract. Yeah. Sanjeevni, since you did
Okay,
the
so
yeah.
taking out, like, okay, we have empirical data, we have scientific.
What is empirical data? What is empirical detail?
Empirical detail is scientific based facts.
English.
They are facts, details. We have exact information.
What does empirical mean?
Facts backed
Based in
by
reality. It's based
yeah,
in
facts
reality.
backed
Based in
by
reality.
realistic studies,
Realistic study.
on realistic studies on
What do you mean
samples.
by real?
Measurable, right?
No. What is empiricism? What does empirical mean?
What I can see, what I can touch, what I can
Exactly.
observe.
The philosophy of empiricism is I will believe in something only which I can see. So, we had an interesting Socratic dialogue. One kid said, I don't believe in God because I'm an empiricist and I can't see God. Then the other kid who was in the question box said, can you see, did you ever go to America? You did not see America. Do you believe that America exists? I was like, I wish I could get some popcorn. And it was super interesting, right? The way they had this dialogue. This is what is empiricism. What do you mean by empirical detail? The detail that I got by
One's own senses.
through our senses, right? All our senses, whatever through sensory perceptions, whatever I got is empirical detail. So why do we have subjects, right? Psychology or business or technology or computer science or anything? Why do we have subjects? We have a lot of things that we are seeing. And what are we trying to do with what we are seeing?
Find the patterns, abstract
Exactly, that's
them.
abstraction. Do we just find a pattern? For that pattern, we construct a
Theory.
English. Tell me a word a 5-year-old will understand for theory.
Rule.
No.
Um,
This is why finding technique is important, because see, I asked you what is empirical, you said I know. And it went into tangents. I asked you what is theory and you said I know. Theory is not rule.
A concept?
No.
Proper planning?
Idea.
No.
Visual or image?
Sorry?
Visual or image kind of thing?
No.
Understanding?
Close, but no.
Assumption that this is why this pattern is happening.
Partially close, but no. Varsha was closer.
Belief.
No. Theory is not belief.
Explanation on experiments.
A lesson?
Hey, can we go back? Can we go back? There was some light in the room. Who was it earlier? Was it Ayush?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying like explanation of some experiment pattern based.
Is it always is theory always experiment based?
It's also research based, like you observe patterns in past data.
Exactly.
Scenarios,
What is theory in one word? Ayush just gave it to us.
Explanation.
Exactly. We want to tell why this is happening, how this is happening. All of that is theories. We make up our theories. Some are backed in evidence, some are not backed in evidence. When they're backed with evidence, we call them scientific theories. So what do? We observe, we see pattern, and whatever pattern we see,
We try to explain it.
Explanation.
exactly. These are what theories are. And now how are theories connected to our work? Because if you can code the theory in your prompt, AI will understand you better. Gen AI, LLMs will understand you better when you can quote a theory. If you use theories in your prompts, you'll get higher quality results. So this is why I think it's difficult to always look for real world examples, right? Get comfortable with abstraction. I think if you want to be world-class professionals, right? Abstraction is important. Yeah. Anybody else wants to go into the reflection? We'll take 2 more. Who is going in next?
I will go.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I think the very first thing was like, yeah, I think the very first thing was like, who knew that crafting code has so much in common with composing a novel? Like literally. But I think that illuminates kinship between the literature and software developments. Like, style isn't just for sentence, structure guides program too. And I think emotions shapes user experience as well. I feel that. And I think every app tells a story. Like beyond the technical thing, we discovers how empathy sparking innovations, demanding clarity, and building teams that concept through shared narrative. And I think aesthetic code for me is like something that where logic meets artistry, proving that even the realm of ones and zero, beauty and elegance truly matter. So yeah.
Was that ChatGPT generated the language? Felt so.
No.
Okay. No, but I was just, while you were talking, I was just thinking that probably when the architecture of the code, right, the way you designed the entire project, that itself is literature. Zainab, I hope you would agree. Over the last 2-3 days, how we were like, चलो 4 API लगेंगे, इतने ये लगेंगे. How we designed the way the application works, right? So I think that itself is literature. That's the literature that nobody gets to see. And companies wouldn't want people to see. Companies wouldn't want people to know how it's done. But yeah, off late, what's happening is companies are releasing something similar, but not the same as open source for the world to see. Like Google, right? Instead of Chrome browser, Chromium is made open source. Because developers would want their literature to be seen by the world. That यार इतना beautiful मैंने बनाया दुनिया को तो दिखाओ. Yeah. We'll take one last reflection. Who's going in? Some very interesting.
Can I? Okay.
Yeah, Zainab, please go ahead, and then we'll take the other one also. Yeah, who was the other one who went in?
Yeah, I was done.
Dinesh. Okay, Zainab and then Dinesh. Yeah, Zainab, please
Yeah.
go.
So my reflection was, how do we bring that thinking of writing the code in the big of 1 or big of log n complexity to the students or the college students. So apart from motivating students about the theory part, and as how we conduct the examination for the theory, if we have the competitive programming also there in the syllabus, then we will have a lot of competition. Competitive programming is about writing the data structures in the best time complexity and space complexity.
Yeah, sure. I think that's a great idea, right? To throw challenges. Can you solve this problem with constraint? Yeah.
If there is a lot of competition for this, then for sure we will have a more good coders or programmers.
So Zainab, just to add, when we were in college, right?
Yeah.
We generated a hoarding ka design with 1 gigapixel resolution. A 40 feet by 20 feet, 40 feet by 20 feet image with 1 gigapixel resolution. We wrote a Python program to generate that photo. It was a fractal. Its resolution was 1 gigapixel. We went and gave it to that printing shop. His computer crashed. He said, resolution kam karke do. It was in 2011. You know why I told you this? The time complexity, the algorithm was so optimized that we were able to generate that high resolution image. Can you imagine a gigapixels, 40 feet by 20 feet? The hoarding is so big, all of us can, sleep on it. Everybody, all the 44 people on the Zoom link can sleep on it. That big hoarding with 1 gigapixel resolution in 2011, when your phones used to give, VGA cameras and all.
How do you do that?
You study about fractals. You have a weekend, right? Just Google what are fractals. Fractals are mathematically generated images which are very beautiful. We wrote a fractal and generated an image through a fractal.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'll study about that.
It was India's first Sci-Fest done by Isar Pune in 2011, where our banner was a mathematically generated image.
Okay.
We wanted to show IITs ki tumhara baap nikla hai. So we did our fest in a completely different way. And our signature was the fractal. So that again, right? We spent time in optimizing the program so that it could generate that level of resolution. So I think, yeah, I like Zainab's suggestion, right? To get students to see the value of complexity and see challenges with time complexity. Fantastic. Yeah, over to you, Dinesh, for the last reflection of the day.
Yeah, basically from today, I would want to reflect that one great developer would see in his code that one is the logic, other than that, it would be the efficiency. And another thing is that the content creativity. I mean, what the comments would be like. If the comments are good, it won't need a KT itself, right?
Reduced,
So
shorter in effective KT, huh?
Yeah, shorter in effect. It would be not taking much time. So another thing is that for more good uh, good code, we need to write code in a modularity. That's what I want to add. It divides into modules using functional approach. So yeah, this is what I have been.
Yeah, and Dinesh, performance is a multifaceted thing, right? Performance is in terms of impact on the database, impact on the server, impact on the network, latency. So there are various aspects which come in, right, from an overall systems perspective.
Yeah, when coming to the optimization perspective, that's where the DSA comes into picture.
So optimization, not just in terms of time complexity, Dinesh. There are places where space complexity is okay. I'll use more memory, but time I can't use time. There are places where I can use time but can't use space. So it's important to understand what are my constraints before you choose the algorithm. Because often time complexity and space complexity, there's a trade-off. Okay, for those non-developers, non-engineers, space complexity is how much information your computer has to remember. I remember more, I might be able to do it faster. Right? Something like that. So in some places, I'm allowed to remember more, but not allowed to take more time. Some places I'm allowed to take more time, but not allowed to remember more. So there's always a Tom and Jerry battle between them. So how you navigate through that time complexity, space complexity is also interesting. Cool. Very interesting connections between literature and software development, and hope you have some food for thought for the weekend. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Tarun, could you end the live stream, please?
You can reclaim host and end it.
Okay.
Papadidi, you're doing it?
Yeah.
Atua, you can reclaim host and do it perhaps, because I don't
Done,
have.
done.
Done. Okay.
Just
Because
one
I
second.
don't have my